I want Ukraine to win this war against the Russian invaders. But there is one thing really worrying me about after a year of this war, apart from the West not giving Ukraine all the weapons it needs. So far as I can see, there's just been one big winner, and that winner is China. You ever think only one major military power has not sent a missile or even a bullet to that war? That's China. Only one major military power isn't now complaining that it's short of ammunition. Again, that is China. And only one major military power has profited from the sanctions that we've slapped on Russia, banning its oil and gas. Once again, China. Because Russia's been forced to sell its gas and some of its oil and coal to China at bargain prices, rock bottom. And cheap Russian gas and oil and coal, that only helps make China stronger. And now, here comes China's Foreign Minister Wang Yi to Moscow to talk about China's so-called peace deal for the war. Like China's now the good guy in all of this. Joining me is the country's top foreign affairs writer, Greg Sheridan of The Australian. Greg, thank you so much for your time. What is China up to? And for me, it cannot be good.
Well, Andrew, I think your analysis is absolutely spot on. China has derived all those benefits from the war. There are a few things that China won't like the West has stood together. I think China has been shocked about that. I think China has been a bit shocked into realising that it was overestimating the decline both of the United States and of the West, and it doesn't like the fact that Western powers and their Asian allies are all increasing their defence expenditure. 40 countries in the current year are increasing their defence expenditure. Germany and Japan are doubling theirs. But this peace plan of China's is completely pro-Russian and fatuous. It allows Russia to hold on to all the territory it's gained through invasion, and it provides for the immediate suspension of all unilateral sanctions on China. That means sanctions outside the UN and, China being on the sanctions on Russia rather, and Russia and China being on the Security Council with vetoes means the UN won't do anything significant. But at the same time, China's a bit worried about reputational loss because Russia is doing so badly. And the most disturbing thing is Antony Blinken and NATO both report that China is on the brink of supplying deadly drones and artillery shells to Russia. That would be a very bad development indeed.
Yes, but in the meantime, China would be happy to see the West waste so many of its weapons, devote so many of its weapons to Ukraine. And now, of course, you're seeing some on the right, even some on the left, saying, oh, the war is not worth it, blah, blah, that unity. There are some challenges to it, which really worry me. But Greg, something funnier about this. I notice that the Russian president, I really should start calling him the dictator because that's essentially what he is, Vladimir Putin, he didn't play his usual macho stunt, when he gets statesmen calling him to talk about peace and all that. When some Western leader like French President Macron, he comes to talk to Putin about the war, Putin puts him right at the tip of a very long desk, makes him look like a fool. But with China's foreign minister, it was all very intimate. I'm guessing he wouldn't dare try to belittle Wang Yi because China is now the boss.
Well, that's right. Putin understands the language of power. I had an interview with the deputy Ukrainian foreign minister who said that Putin only understands the language of power, and China speaks the language of power more forcefully than anyone else except the United States when it's in a certain mood. And Putin is subservient to the Chinese. Putin is completely dependent on the Chinese. One of the disappointing elements of the war is the way the global South, India, Vietnam and so on, have been willing to criticise Russia but have kept trading with it. And the most important trading partner of Russia is China. The Americans also say that China is providing Russia already with dual-use technology which is notionally civilian but which can easily be converted to military use. And Putin is completely dependent now on China. And Wang Yi obviously wasn't going to put up with any of that nonsense about elongated tables or anything like that. And if Putin can secure a visit from Xi Jinping, remember Xi Jinping describes Putin as his best friend and says they have a friendship without limits. So what we're seeing in the world now is a de facto alliance between Russia and China and Iran, and that is very, very disturbing.
I'm actually out of time, but I want to show one thing to you quickly, Greg. Sky News reporter Carolyn Marcus had a disturbing report today. We already know about China spying here. We know about China putting pressure on Chinese Australians, threatening their relatives back home. We know all that kind of cyber attacks, theft of industrial secrets. Carolyn Marcus reported on the 125 taxpayer-funded Chinese community language schools in New South Wales. There are others in other states. She found evidence they were preaching now loyalty to China first. Here's some of her report.
This poetry competition may look innocent, but critics say these Sydney students are, in fact, spouting Chinese propaganda.
China is our motherland, and we love the Yangtze River. They just teach the student to loyal to China, not loyal to Australia.
The last voice was a former principal of one of these schools, which I repeat, are funded by Australian taxpayers in part, and also get their textbooks, some of them from China. How worried should we be, Greg Sheridan?
Well, I think the role that the Chinese government and state apparatus has played in Australian education has been sinister and very bad. And the chief culprits are our universities, who have allowed Chinese-funded courses and the Confucian Institutes to flourish. But even the New South Wales Education Department, until a year or two ago, was taking Chinese government money to promote the study of Chinese language. Now, Chinese Australians are our wonderful citizens, and they need to be protected from the foreign government, which is the government of China. And the authorities, the organs of the Australian government, police, education bureaucracies, the rest, should be making sure that the Chinese state plays absolutely zero role in any part of Australian education.
Absolutely, Greg. I think it's ironic that our own schools are increasingly giving up teaching patriotism to our children, but the Chinese government is making sure that patriotism to China is taught in some of the schools that we finance. I mean, it's just extraordinary. Greg Sheridan, thank you so much for your time.